Good evening. Thanks very much for coming through. Just the question, I guess, is why you have decided to take this rather extraordinary step.
The lawyer has taken things too far. He has asked information that was overstepping the dignity of the victim. So we are not saying that you cannot do your cross-examination, but your cross-examination must not strip the victim to relive, again, the ordeal. And I think in this case, just by asking centimeters, the Gender Commission is asking itself, where was he taking the centimeters? Because there is no one who is raped who is going to be measuring. You are being violated. How are you going to measure the centimeters? And therefore, we have lodged a complaint with the Law Society because the lawyer is an attorney. So we have lodged our complaint with the disciplinary section of the Law Society so that they can look into this matter, because he has overstepped, and in our eye, we see that he has stripped dignity. That information that he was asking went too far.
Did you seek any legal opinion, perhaps, to find out perhaps whether he sort of flouted any rules or broke any law?
There is a case, an appeal that we have found, Judge Villa J, where Mr. Mabunda in that court asked a 7-year-old child, I don't want to be explicit, but he asked a child that was raped at 7 years more about what was happening in this child's private parts. And this child was just breaking up crying, but the magistrate was looking on and kept on saying, please bring a doll so that this child can still indicate what this child must show us what is happening here with these private parts. So the judge Villa in that appeal has stated that Mr. Mabunda, who is the lawyer who was busy doing that cross-examination, has actually overstepped the details that he was looking for. They were just humiliating to the 9-year-old who was raped at 7 years. And in this case, we're drawing on to that experience that this is particularly has some inkling to the overstepping.
Mm-hmm. How empowered are you as the Commission to sort of be able to not only identify but deal and as speedily as possible with these kinds of cases?
We do deal with these cases, but what we want to give credit to is the media being inside the courts. The Gender Commission, we have one legal officer in every province, and every quarter we are inside different courts around the country. We can actually identify the courts that we have problems with, and maybe to credit also the Magistrates Commission for its support and the Deputy Chief Justice for just giving us an ear and advising us on how far these things can go. Because as far as how things happen with the legal fraternity and the independence of the judiciary is that when something happens in that court, there are no other judges who can actually influence that judge or that proceedings. Therefore, when we have a complaint, we have to lodge it with the bar if the person is an advocate, or if the person, like in this case, is an attorney, we have to lodge our complaint with the disciplinary section of the Law Society, and that is what we have done. But let me hasten to say, Vuyo, we appreciate the judge in this case, because what we have seen is that there's unevenness in our courts. Our legal officers, they are very uneven. The presiding officers, like in this case, Villa J, where we found that the magistrate actually was in this gratuitous, environment, allowing this lawyer to go overboard and overzealous. When the parents were really crying, seeing their 9-year-old being asked this question, but the magistrate was like keeping on, going on this fashion. And therefore, for us as a Gender Commission, we are saying, it is about time that the legal fraternity, the legal justice as independent as they are, and we respect that independence, all that we are appealing to is that let's be even-handed. Sexism is prejudice, and sexism, when it's watched by our children, the kinds of questions that we're saying is overzealous. These questions, when the society is looking at them, our children are looking at this, they can actually cause so much prejudice, reinforce what we can term as hatred towards women, because rape is actually hatred against women.
Now, you were saying earlier that there have been many of such incidents. Were you able to act in those instances? And if so, what have you been able to take out of those cases that you have had to deal with, if you have any?
In this Villa J case, we have had our hand on it, because we are also enabled to be friends of the courts, which we do much more often. And in this case, we have said to ourselves, because we have been advised that we can't interfere with the judge, what we are saying as the Gender Commission, the judge is conducting a fair trial, and he is making sure that the trial is safe. And the Gender Commission is satisfied with the conduct of the presiding officer. We know that the truth will come out. But what we are not happy with is the defense. And we are saying to the legal fraternity, to the bar councils, to the Chief Justice, what we are asking is that, please, sexism is a blind spot, especially for men. So we are not saying that judges are blind, but we're saying, keep an eye on this. This is sexism, this is prejudice. It further stresses women and the hatred against women. And when we appealed, we were advised, go to the courts, and that is what we are doing. So we have not written to the judge because we don't do undue influence, but we have decided to go against the defense lawyer, unfortunately, and this is not harassment. All that we are saying, the victims of rape, they have always stated this, that they are frightened of our courts, they are frightened that the presiding officers are not really doing the sensitive part.
Okay, that's all we're going to leave it. Thanks very much for coming through.